Hey, this is Allie Edwards, and welcome to week 4 of Project Life for 2018. This is just following along with pretty much what I have been doing. You can see that I start with all my photos in place. This week I have almost all of the pockets filled with photos and a couple filled with journal cards. I almost always start off with my title card, adding the date. This year I am using some one little word quote cards that are still available in my shop if you're interested in these gold foil quote cards. They come in a pack of 12, so you can mix them in throughout your year as part of your title cards if you like to do it that way. I always just use a rolling date stamp to stamp the actual dates on there. And the gold foil label sticker that I used is actually still available in the shop as well. That was a December daily label set that had gold and silver options. So most of the time, as many of you guys know, when I am looking at these spreads, I am often looking for a unifying embellishment. What can I use over and over again throughout the course of the spread to kind of tie all of these stories and all of these images together? So this week I decided to play with some label stickers that I have in my shop that came out with one little word products. And I'm going to, you can see I'm using a rolling date stamp, and then I'm using a rolling day of the week stamp. And I'm going to do one of those for a total of 7 on each day of the week. So to start off that process, I just went ahead and stamped the dates on each of those stickers. And these do come in a pack. Stamp the dates on all of them, and then I'm going to go in and stamp the days of the week as well. Sometimes when I do this kind of thing, I will vary the placement around on the photos, but as you'll see in a minute here, I ended up putting the label stickers almost in the same place on top of each photo. One of the main things that I really like about doing this kind of repetitive embellishing is that it takes some of the thought out of it. And I totally recognize that there are a lot of people out there that love the creative process of coming up with something different to add to each photo, or coming up with some different way to play with the embellishments that you have. I think for me that I find a lot of peace and I don't know, peace is the right word, but there's a different word that's also the right word. I like the fact that I don't have to think. It takes some of the thinking out of it, right? I make one decision, and that one decision gets repeated 7 times, and it simplifies the process overall for me. And then it just becomes kind of about the production, right, of putting it together rather than having to rethink each time. And there are definitely times when I want to do something different on every photo, and I don't do this every single time, but this has really become this approach has become my go-to for working in Project Life. So you can see there when I'm adding the label stickers, I decided to add them to the kind of bottom center of the photo, and I'm trimming off a little bit on the bottom. I trimmed off enough so that I had space on most of them for about 3 lines of written text that just gives a little bit more detail and a little bit more information about the actual story of the picture. They don't have to be long. They don't have to be, super in-depth. A lot of the pictures that I add into Project Life are just slices of our life, right? Little pictures of details, pictures of little things, In the scope of our lives, is it super important that I went to Jamba Juice on a Wednesday in January? Well, probably not. But for me, I find joy in using my camera to document colorful circles, especially those are the Jamba Juice circles there. And that's a part of how I pay attention, and part of the way that I practice gratitude, and part of the way that I, look for things in my life, look for beautiful things in my life. And sometimes the beautiful things are really simple, like the tops of Jamba Juice lids, and you can go beyond there of thinking about, that I was thankful that day that I had a bunch of kids in the house, and that everybody has different tastes and those kinds of things as well. Or I could tell a different story of how I actually got the wrong one for Anna and how she was so disappointed and she didn't like the one that I got for her, which is typical pieces of all of these stories too. I think that I often choose to focus on the thankful part or the gratitude part of many of these stories. The one that I had just done before was a picture. I was getting ready to travel that week, and so it was a picture of the inside of my suitcase, which I think is kind of fun to see as well. That's not something that we necessarily normally take a picture of. And then I captured a photo just as I was traveling. This was a work trip, so I didn't take a ton of photos, just a few photos that would be able to tell a little bit of a story about traveling, right? So here's a photo outside the airplane window. Here's a photo of something we ate while we were there. Here's a photo of some of the people that we were with. That's generally kind of what I'm thinking about on that kind of a trip. So again, you can see that basically what I'm doing right here is I'm in production mode, and that means that I'm just going through and I'm adding the stickers onto the pictures, and then I am adding my text. This time I'm using a pen that is, I don't know that this pen is archival or anything special. It's just my favorite pen to use, and I didn't have any of my precision pens. I couldn't find any when I was working on this one. This is a Uniball Vision Elite. It's just a pen that I order on Amazon by the box. Just my favorite pen to write with in general, on regular paper or for note-taking, other things like that as well. One of the kids around here had a dance at his middle school. That's Isaac. So we did a little bit of documentation about that. I also wanted to say too that when I'm doing this, the picture of the food actually happened on Saturday and not on Friday, but I don't really care. In the whole scheme of life, it isn't going to matter. They happen within a few days of each other. It's all about that same kind of time period. And I wanted to be able to include that picture of Isaac and his school, and I didn't want to add any inserts this time, so I just went ahead and I'm fine with the placement of things that are not actually on that particular day. Right there you can see that I made a mistake when I was putting it down, and I was going to just pull it up and start over again with another label sticker, but I decided to just leave it. I was able to get it on there fine enough. It's not as smooth as the other ones, but it was not that big of a deal. So being able to roll with some of that stuff. I mean, you can always take it off and add another one depending on if you have more. Sometimes you do, and sometimes it's the last one. In this case, I just went ahead and stuck it down on there, and it worked just fine. Then I used a Love Today journal card and added just a little bit, I believe that's from the February Stories by the Month kit, and just added a little bit of journaling about the trip and what we were doing on the trip. It was a business trip and for meetings, and went to Nashville and Bowling Green, and just, a few more details about that experience onto that card right there. Again, just using the same pen. A lot of times people ask, I think one of the things that gets people stuck in Project Life is they feel like they need to include every single story. And if you have the photo, then it needs to have a story, or you need to be capturing everything. And one of the things that I'm really noticing specifically in Project Life this year is that with the number of kids that we have and just our life, there's never going to be enough pockets if I was trying to cover every kid's story of what was happening in their week and, all of the pictures that I take. That's not really my goal here. My goal is just more of an overview. That's what Project Life is for me, an overview of a variety of different things that are happening over the course of our week. And I try to include little bits about different kids at different points in time. So I'm somewhat conscious of that. But I also, just include the pictures that I take. And I do have smaller 6x8 albums that I have started for all of the kids to be able to capture some of the more meaningful stories, or when I want to write them a letter, or I want to talk to them, I want to tell them a story of something specific that's happening, or document something that happened in their lives. That way each of them have their own small album that has something specific to them versus this big general album, which for me is really more about my story, right? Project Life for me is really more about my perspective. They're my pictures, they're the things that I'm seeing, they're the things that I am witnessing, and they're the stories that I want to tell. So at this point, I was trying to decide, did I want to add some additional embellishments? Did I want to add something to those label stickers. Did I want to add something overall? So I use these boxes from IKEA. They're called Dragan, Dragan, and they're usually in the bathroom section. And I use them for journal cards and some for chipboard and other things that come in the story kits. And then I have just a kind of a random box. This needs to be organized now because it's too hard to find anything in there. Those are kind of the random pieces that are left over from story kits or other shop releases that we have. But I was looking, again, for something that could be added on to here. And a lot of times, as you've seen, I do like to add the same thing or, a repeated shape over and over again. So I'm still kind of looking through my boxes of stuff to see what I wanted. And I ended up pulling out some chipboard hearts that I believe were an add-on in the For the Love kit. But if you like this style, or you want to follow this kind of formula, you can just look through your own stash and see what, shape-based embellishment do you have that could be added on to the label stickers. Or you could cut out these label stickers, just with paper and make them yourself too. I also added that circle ampersand there that is a plastic circle, and I can't remember what that's from, but I'll look it up and have it linked in the supply section as well. Just that little bit of added chipboard hearts, I liked having that. One other thing, to me, it felt like it kind of grounded the label stickers down onto the photos themselves. Sometimes I will add staplers because that's something that, that's something that makes me feel like whatever I've put on top of there is, grounded and attached in a more concrete way to the photos. And so these chipboard hearts felt like they did that for me. Then I decided that I was pretty much done. Like I was in the mood to not embellish a ton, not add something to every single photo. I pulled out the one photo of the flying home at night and just looked for a word phrase sticker or a chipboard piece or something that I could add on there that was basically talking about coming home. That's kind of what I was looking for, some sort of sentiment that echoed that in one way or another. I just wanted to add something into that black space, and I ended up grabbing a banner sticker from a past release that just, I think it said "Remember This" or something like that on there. Just a little bit of something to finish off that photo as well. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments below, and I'll see you back again soon.